Hello, this is Anthony Precella, and today I'm continuing to work with my face-to-face trigonometry class, working out the review sheet for the third exam. And we're up to number 17, where we're working with inverse trig functions. You should recall, let's see, where's my unit circle? First of all, you should be able to fill out the unit circle completely. You should recall that the inverse trig functions aren't defined over the whole unit circle 0 to 2 pi. In class, we restricted the domain of each of the 6 trig functions and until it was just 1 to 1, and then found the inverse function using the 1 to 1 functions. So for cosine, inverse cotangent, we defined it from 0 to 2 pi. For inverse sine and inverse tangent, we used negative 90 degrees, or negative pi over 2 up to pi over 2. So we don't have anything defined over the third interval, the third quadrant. And over here, we're going to write negative angle measurement. So let me see if I can do that. Right here, this would be 330 degrees is negative 30 degrees, or negative pi over 6. It's just each one of these angle measurements there. So we have negative 30 degrees, negative 45 degrees, negative 60 degrees, negative 90 degrees. It's a negative. Negative 60 degrees would be pi over 3, negative 45 degrees, negative pi over 4, and so forth. So I'll be glancing at this unit circle as I do these. Let's see. Inverse cosine square root of 3 over 2. Well, inverse cosine is defined from 0 to pi. Remember the way we said to try to remember this, the ones that have the O in them, cosine and cotangent, are the ones defined over the interval 0 to pi. Okay? So, inverse cosine square root of 3 over 2. Let's see. That's defined over 0 to pi. So which angle has, between 0 and pi, has a cosine square root of 3 over 2? Well, cosine's the x value, so it would be at 30 degrees or pi over 6. How are we told to write our answer? Radians, so C, pi over 6. Okay, the cosine of 30 degrees, square root of 3 over 2. Now, number 18, inverse cotangent negative 1. That also is defined. We're just looking 0 to pi. So let's see. When we go cosine over sine, it certainly wouldn't be any of these over here, because this would be positive if we go cosine over sine. So it's going to be over here. Where would we get a negative 1 if we go cosine over pi, cosine over sine? Well, that would be at 3 pi over 4 and 135 degrees. So it's radians, so 3 pi over 4. Now, inverse sine 1/2. Well, looking at inverse sine 1/2. Inverse sine, we're looking only negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. That 0.5 is 1/2. Y'all don't know that. Well, it wouldn't be down here, because down here in the fourth quadrant, sine is negative, so it's up here. So where is sine equal to 1/2 up here in the first quadrant? Well, at 30 degrees or pi over 6. So B, pi over 6. have that unit circle memorized. Arc cosine 1/2. Well, inverse cosine is defined over 0 to pi. So let's see, where's cosine 1/2? Well, right here. It's 60 degrees or pi over 3 d. Okay, 60 degrees. Now 21, this one involves inverse cosecant, and I didn't formally define that. Instead, in class, I told you rewrite, if it's inverse secant or inverse cosecant, rewrite it in terms of inverse sine or cosine. So what's the reciprocal of cosecant? Well, sine. So I'm writing this as inverse. So you write the reciprocal function, and then actually take the reciprocal of the number. The reciprocal of negative 2 over 1 would be negative 1/2. So we're looking at inverse sine negative 1/2. Let me see. Inverse sine is defined from negative 90 degrees up to 90 degrees. So where is sine negative 1/2? Well, right here at negative 30 degrees or negative 60 degrees. Remember, these ordered pairs are in alphabetical order, cosine, comma, sine. So negative 30 degrees, that would be this one here, D. Okay. Now, arctangent negative square root of 3 over 3. Well, arctangent is defined over the same region that inverse sine is, or arc sine, negative 90 to positive 90 degrees. Well, it sure wouldn't be up here. Up here, if you go sine over cosine, you're going to get a positive number. So it's down here. It's sure not at negative 45 degrees, because if you go sine over cosine, you're going to get negative 1. So is it negative 30 degrees or negative 60 degrees? So let's try, here we go, sine over cosine. Let's see, can y'all do that at this point in your head? Let's see. I'm going to try negative 30 degrees. I'm going to go sine over cosine. Negative 1/2 all over square root of 3 over 2. Well, how could I simplify that? Well, I'll multiply above and below by the blue 2. At that point, we'll have negative 1 over the square root of 3. And when we were doing these in class the other day, it seemed like y'all were pretty good at just rationalizing that in your head. Multiply above and below by square root of 3 to get a negative square root of 3 over 3. So which one was it that I just tried? Negative 30 degrees? That's it. Sine over cosine gives you negative square root of 3 over 3. So negative 30 degrees. A. Now, let's see, number 23. Arc sine negative 1. Well, arc sine negative 1. Inverse sine is defined over that interval negative pi over 2 to pi over 2, or negative 90 degrees to 90 degrees. Well, where is sine negative 1? Well, surely nowhere up here. It's right there at negative 90 degrees or negative pi over 2. It's stated in terms of degrees here. So we write negative 90 degrees. Now, our last one here, dealing with inverse trig functions, number 24. Inverse cotangent. Inverse cotangent is defined over the interval 0 to pi. So Where if we go cosine over sine, are we going to get square root of 3 over 3? Well, not over here, because cosine over sine, that would give you negative. So it's either here or here, either at 30 degrees or 60 degrees. Hopefully, all you agree cosine over sine here would give you just a 1. So let's see, which one is it? Well, if you did this one, cosine over sine, you're going to wind up with no, can you do that in your head? You wind up with no fractions pretty quickly. And right up here, we went 1/2 over square root of 3 over 2. That's the one that gives you square root of 3 over 3. It's going to be right here at 60 degrees. If you went 1/2 over the square root of 3 over 2, I'll write it out again. 1/2 over the square root of 3 over 2, multiply above and below by 2. You can just have 1 over the square root of 3, rationalize. And so that would be at 60 degrees. Cosine over sine gives you 1 over the square root of 3. Once you rationalize it, you get square root of 3 over 3. So this one is A. Any questions there? There's no way around knowing for inverse trig functions. The ones that have the O in them, inverse cosine and inverse cotangent, defined over the interval 0 to pi. Inverse sine and inverse tangent are over the interval negative pi over 2 to pi over 2, negative 90 degrees to 90 degrees. Inverse secant and cosecant, just write them in terms of the reciprocal. We had several like that in the homework, as I recall. Okay? Let's take a few minute break before we start solving trig equations.